Oh my God, today was a complete shit show at the Paradex crypto exchange. They were down for over 3 hours while the Token2048 conference was going on. They were actually live streaming their after party in Singapore while the exchange was crashing. So if we go back a few hours here, we can see on the chart where things just were not going well at all. Now, I had noticed some issues with my market making algo earlier in the day, and I was wondering what was going on because the spreads between Paradex and Hyperliquid were just going crazy. And then I thought there was an issue going on with my algo, so I checked in on them. They seemed to be running okay, and then I went over to Paradex and I was like, "OMG, the order book isn't updating." Jumped on the Discord channel, and sure enough, there was nothing going on. The exchange was completely frozen, and it took them over 3 hours to resolve this issue today. So I wanted to go through and start talking about the different DEXes that I'm taking a look at here for market making and other automated trading strategies, and also just want to get into more about what a distributed exchange is. But for the time being, we'll just go ahead and go and talk about Paradex anyway, and kind of what the costs are associated with trading there as both a retail trader trading through the UI and then also as a automated trader, because the costs are different depending on how you're placing your trades. So the interesting thing about Paradex is they trade two types of products. They have as of right now, they have perpetual futures contracts, and they also have perpetual options. Now, for me, I want to focus on futures. I don't know enough about options. There's so many variables that go into the price of an option, and then adding the perpetual aspect onto that. So these options don't have expirations, they just trade indefinitely. That adds another layer of complexity on there, which for me at least, I just don't want to get into, at least not right now. I'm fine trading the futures contracts in the spot market. But if we go take a look at the trading fees here for the futures contracts, now retail traders, they just updated their fees, and actually they've been updating them a number of times over the past month or two. But as of right now, retail traders are not paying anything for trading via the user interface. So if you're a retail trader, you log into the UI, you're not paying any commissions either for market orders or limit orders. You do pay a 1.5 basis point settlement fee. So if you're holding on to contracts and they decide to delist those contracts and they need to settle that out, and because you are not closing your position out when they delist it, you're going to pay 1.5 basis points for that. Now, for API traders, it gets a little more complicated. And the reason I had started trading at Paradex in the first place is because for market makers or API traders, they were offering a half a basis point rebate if you were providing liquidity into the order book, meaning if you were doing limit orders in the order book, you were earning a half a basis point commission or rebate on all those trades. Now, they've slowly been changing this, and they introduced a new order type as well. So for standard API traders now, it actually is going to cost a third of a basis point for adding a order to the order book, and then it's going to cost 2 basis points for a market order. Now, they have introduced this new order type called RPI, which stands for Retail Price Improvement. And the cool thing about this is that this is only available to retail traders, meaning you place it with the API, but only retail traders can trade against it. And initially, they had made it so that the you were paying extra as an API trader to do this. So if you had your algo and you only wanted to trade against retail traders, you didn't want to trade against API traders because retail traders tend to be more uninformed. There's less toxic order flow. So if you're a market maker, you might pay a premium to trade against a retail trader than another algo. So they had their regular API traders not paying any commission, and people wanting to place RPI orders or market makers wanting to place RPI orders were paying a half a basis point commission for that. Now they just modified that this week, where they dropped that from a half a basis point to a third of a basis point, and they raised the API trader standard trades to a third of a basis point as well. So what you'll see is in the order book, if you're looking at API or RPI trades, you'll see them highlighted in the order book as these kind of lightly colored rows here. And these orders are only visible to people trading in the UI. So if you're trading via the API with an automated algorithm, you're not going to be able to see these orders in the order book. You would see whatever the next highest or lowest order is below those highlighted rows. So this kind of changes things for me a bit, because now there's not really as much of an incentive to make a market here on Paradex, although I am curious to kind of test out placing standard orders versus RPI orders and see if there's any difference in execution costs or fills that I'm seeing with those. Now, the reason I'm not migrating off of this right away is because I wrote a lot of infrastructure around trading on Paradex. I'm currently working on some other code for trading on some other venues as well. I'm almost done with my Hyperliquid code, and I'm looking at some other exchanges as well, which I'll start to get into doing reviews of these other exchanges as well, because as I'm getting further into this, there's probably, I don't know, probably close to 24 different exchanges I found at this point, distributed exchanges. And for every distributed exchange, that represents additional opportunity for doing market making and arbitrage and all that stuff. So I'm pretty excited about all the opportunities that are available out there with each one of these new exchanges that are coming out. So, in the future, we'll be talking about Aster is another one. Now, you could debate on whether Aster is actually a distributed exchange or it's a centralized exchange masquerading as a distributed exchange, just because they put a Web3 front end on it, basically to be able to connect your wallet directly to it without having to do any KYC stuff. But anyway, I'm very curious to hear what exchanges are you guys, what distributed exchanges are you guys trading on? Which ones are you curious about? Which ones do you want to hear more about? I'm going to start doing some more research on these guys, both from a retail trader standpoint, trading through the user interface, and then also an automated trader standpoint, and how their API works, and the costs associated with both of those. So leave a comment below if there's a particular exchange you want me to dive further into, or if you have feedback on an exchange you're currently trading on. I'd love to hear about that as well. So I hope you guys are having an awesome week, and I will talk to you soon. Bye.